Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is going to be a review of Corsair's new symmetrical mouse, the M75 Air. You can currently find this at Best Buy, you can get it off Amazon, etc. But I do want to throw out there that this mouse is somewhat interesting in the sense that I don't quite know what Corsair was thinking pricing this at $150. It seems as though, on first glance, that it would have stats that kind of mirror and compete against the G Pro Superlight, but it just doesn't. And as people reported in my initial review of this video, the 2000 hertz polling rate from Corsair products is typically a fake polling rate. And I did confirm that with setting the receiver as well as the mouse at 2000 hertz. It definitely does not poll on any hertz testing checker that I've used at over 1000 hertz. So I do still think that it is a fake 2000 hertz polling rate, at least as far as I can tell. I do have to say, though, that in terms of performance, setting it to 2000 hertz, I don't have any sensor related issues. The sensor felt good. I didn't have any stuttering, any hiccups. So in terms of just general performance, the mouse did feel quite good in game. Overall shape does feel rather unique, and we'll get into it, but just to kind of reiterate, it kind of comes up in a curved V that kind of expands and gets to the peak of the hump. And then you'll almost feel a rather drastic dip in the plastic of mouse 1 and mouse 2 towards the front of the mouse. It almost feels as though your index finger and middle finger kind of dip down quite a bit, and then it stabilizes and stays not too low off your desk or off your mouse pad. So it's definitely a rather unique shape that kind of fills that large symmetrical mouse bracket. But there's things that I definitely ran into issues in terms of build quality. There's things I like and things I don't like. Now, I did have to put, and you guys can see, I do have 3 Superglide dots, and that's because the default skates are an absolute crime against humanity. It's like they went to Logitech and said, who makes your skates? I want those skates, but worse and cheaper. And that's what these skates feel like. They're very hard to play with. They're very muddy. They're very slow. But once I did put on the new skates, it opened up the mouse, and I did get that extra performance I was looking for. On the bottom of the mouse, I will also note, at least I haven't found out what key combination, if there even is one, to change the DPI. But there is no DPI button, and the button on the bottom of the mouse just simply turns it on and swaps between wireless as well as Bluetooth. So you do have to download iQue, the software, which is an absolute crime against humanity as well, to be able to change the DPI and then save your DPI on the hardware settings of the mouse. So I think the default DPI was 1200. I went down to 800 and saved it and then deleted iQue. The thing I hate about iQue is as soon as you download it, it literally just starts trying to commandeer all of your fans, change your RGB colors, and it's really just a pain in the butt. I just do not like the iQue software at all. In terms of overall structural integrity, the integrity of the mouse is an A+. I can squeeze as hard as I can from the sides, from the top down, and pushing from the bottom up, and the base does not budge, the top shell does not budge, or the side. So structural integrity, A+. In terms of the coating, I would say I definitely do enjoy it. It stays dry in game. It's not something that became muddy. Whether it changes over time is to be determined, but overall, I would say I'd put it at around like the black, or when the black Viper V2 first came out. It kind of feels somewhat along those lines. The side buttons are glossy, and I think that this little concave hump on the side buttons actually feels very good. It's something that is pretty unique to me, but overall, the side buttons are actually very light and tactile and crispy. I think the side buttons feel exceptionally good with very little pre-travel, very little post-travel. Now, again, you guys already know the skates are an absolute abomination, but overall, if you are to replace those, it does feel quite good in terms of the overall glide and shape of the mouse, which is the most important thing to me, of course, is the shape. The mouse feels like it has a pretty pronounced hump at its peak that gradually comes up from the base of the mouse, comes up to its peak, and then it kind of glides down pretty abruptly for mouse 1 and mouse 2. You'll feel your index and middle finger kind of just drop down towards where it curves downward. And it actually feels very good for a large symmetrical mouse. I think anybody who has been really craving a larger mouse might actually really enjoy the shape. But overall, I do have to bring up the fact that the scroll wheel does at times become very scratchy. It does feel quite good as far as its steps in game. Mouse 3 feels very good, and it has that little lime green accent, which looks really nice. But when scrolling for just casual purposes, I would just point out that the scroll wheel at times, for some reason, just becomes a little bit scratchy on my copy. My biggest issue with the build quality of the mouse is the plastic over mouse 1 and mouse 2. You guys can see it's very long and elongated where it separates from the other portion of the shell, and it just causes a immense amount of flex in the plastic if you are hitting mouse 1 and mouse 2 towards the upper portion, which I do with the size of my hands. And it makes the plastic flex over mouse 1. You feel flexing and creaking. It almost feels like switch grinding. And it just feels like an immense amount of post travel that makes mouse 1 and mouse 2 very poorly implemented with how mushy it is and the amount of post travel in feel and that flex and creaking. Now, that could just be my copy. I'm thinking about maybe picking up a different copy of this mouse because I do enjoy the shape. But overall, that just kills the experience for me at this particular price point. We've seen other mice release at this price point with first batches that have similar issues. So maybe it's something that will be improved upon, but I think this is probably Corsair's best shape to date. I performed very well with it in game. The shape is, again, the most important factor for me. The weight feels very good. Weight balance in game felt great. Again, maybe a hair towards the back. Overall, a pretty good gaming experience because of the shape and the weight, and I didn't have any performance issues with this sensor. And in terms of just comparisons of how it feels compared to other, I would say, medium to large mice, the G Pro Superglide, of course, feels more like a potato, probably has the most inner hand maneuverability compared to the M75 and the Asus ROG Harp Ace. The ROG Harp Ace, because it is a little bit flatter feeling than both of the other mice, it just feels quite a bit longer because you lose more palm contact than what you would have with the M75. It is a higher mouse and has a higher peak in the hump, and then is a mouse that stays a little bit higher as you get down to the bottom of mouse 1 and mouse 2. So the Asus ROG Harp Ace kind of feels a little bit more narrow and a little bit more elongated. The G Pro Superglide feels more like a potato in the hand, and then the M75 just feels as though it is a bit more tapered in the region of the hump as it comes up and then goes down to mouse 1 and mouse 2. Has nice ergonomics to it and is quite a nice shape that does in the hand feel more voluminous than the G Pro Superglide. So guys, that's going to be it for the M75 Air from Corsair. You've got a good shape here, and they just kind of shoot themselves in the foot, pricing this at $150 with poor battery life at 34 hours of battery life, fake 2000 hertz polling rate, and then just questionable build quality and click feel in mouse 1 and mouse 2. It's nice to see them implementing opticals. It's nice to see them coming out with a new shape that actually feels pretty different for that large mouse category. If they could just fix the issues and release this at a price point that competes with other things at the $150 price point, I think that they'd actually have a pretty decent mouse on their hands. And please, no IQ, and give us decent skates. That's going to be it, guys. I hope it helped. If it did, please leave a sub to the channel. I'll see you guys in the next review. Peace.